With me at the Skyview Motorsports desk, also Daytona Motor Speedway, sorta. I'm Roy J. Akers. I'm with Bob Francis of GoFullThrottle.net, Dustin Long of NBC Sports, and Steve Sweitzer from the Lasco Press. You all are NASCAR insiders, and I think three of the four of us were at Echo Park Speedway. That was really quite a race, gentlemen. Anybody want to take it up top?
Yeah,
Bob.
it certainly was I'm sorry, but it certainly was a fantastic race. A lot of excitement. I mean, you had so many different leaders there in the last 10 laps, the last lap pass, and you saw the emotion out of Chase Elliott. As he got out of the car, banging on the roof of the car, and just the excitement going into the stands and high fiving, fist bumping with fans. And that's something we hadn't seen out of Chase before in that light, at least recently, and obviously snapped a 44 race winless streak. So, a big night. But again, it was, I think it was a fun night. Now, if I was one of the 20 some drivers involved in that big accident, I would say maybe it wasn't as much of a fun night, type of thing. But it certainly had a lot of things for a lot of fans on Saturday night.
Bob.
Yeah, I think part of from a media standpoint, for the four of us, is there a better storyline for the coverage moving from Prime Sports over to TNT Sports and having the hometown hero win on the hometown track? So I think that's an exciting element for fans and viewers to see Chase Elliott get that win there at Atlanta. To Dustin's point, though, boy, the amount of exposure that the challenge bracket got going into the race, using this race at Atlanta to launch the bracket challenge and have all of the favorites or many of the favorites get wiped out. I don't know about you guys, but my bracket of 16, I only have 6 remaining. 10 got tossed. So, but I think that's what makes it exciting. That's the whole point of the bracket, and to have a speedway type race where anything can happen. Super exciting for the fans, and boy, my inbox filled up like crazy after that one.
Steve.
Well, Bob, I think you're in good company. I read today that there are no perfect brackets left. So the $1 million that was going to go to the fan who aced a perfect bracket will go back in the bank for next year.
How good was my predictions for the bracket? Steve and we recorded a episode in the Echo Park press box upstairs. Did we ever publish that episode, Steve?
No, thankfully not. But I did have Chase Elliott going all the way to the final. So I guess half my bracket is still good. But I had him matched up against William Byron and out in the first round.
Yeah, there were some other highlights. I don't know how you guys felt about the Echo Park race in terms of, I thought the racing, unfortunately for those that got out of the race, got better when about half the field was gone. It just seemed like passing lanes were everywhere. And I thought the race was outstanding, especially after those other 20 cars are gone. I'm sure the other 20 drivers would say, no, it wasn't. But in my eyes, I thought the racing got a little bit better. Would I have liked to seen all those drivers stay in the race? Of course. But I just thought the racing was incredible down the stretch. And when you have that many people that can win a race, I thought it was outstanding. Brad Keselowski, wow. He is really on the move. A month ago, I thought Kyle Busch might be. Remember we did that, who's going to win next, Kyle Busch or Brad Keselowski, and I think everybody took Kyle Busch. I don't think anybody's thinking that anymore. Anybody?
Well, I'm just glad that my AI predictive model, Roy, had Bowman in the garage. We were holding him because we only have a couple starts left in the fantasy league. But boy, did that bail me out when 2 of our Penske drivers, who our model had predicted were going to be big points gatherers at this Atlanta race, ended up on the hook. And we brought Bowman in from the garage. And then, he ends up pushing Chase Elliott as part of that win. That was exciting to see. And frankly, I think some of the speedway races, we talk about teamwork and team tactics and manufacturers and all that kind of stuff. Atlanta's a bit more compressed, but still, I think there was an element of that team tactics there on that final lap, with Bowman not only getting that bump to push Chase ahead of Brad, but then getting off of Brad to where there's no way Brad could use Bowman to make a run back at Chase on that final lap. That's exciting stuff.
And as a matter of fact, we have Chase Elliott in the press room, and Chase, that last lap, it looked like any one of two or three guys could have won it. It looked like Keselowski was going to make a run. He didn't. You got an assist from Bowman. How do you feel about that?
And, both Brad and Chris are great speedway racers, and they're really fast, and they were doing a really good job controlling the race. And it was really difficult for me to get and have any sort of control. I just felt like I was always they always had a big run on me anytime I got the lead, and I didn't really know how to defend that. And I was just hoping that Alex and I could somehow get in the middle of that and give our one of us a shot. And fortunately, all the cards kind of fell right, there in the closing laps to get a couple big runs. Got 2 for 1 there, getting into 1, got to 2nd. Somehow Alex got to 3rd, and at that point, I think whether roles were the way they were or roles were reversed, if he and I did anything but push one another in that situation, we were handing the race to Brad, right? So we just, he did me a huge solid and lining up and giving me a big shove. And it was enough for me to get by Brad and get back around there to
yeah, and it's just like what Bob was saying. I mean, we got the really good push coming to the white flag from Alex, and then once Chase got in front of Brad, Alex went they went side by side, and that just did not give any energy to Brad to make a move on Chase and allowed Chase to pull away, and Brad was left without the win. You talk about what he's done here lately, 4 top 10s in the last 6 races. After that horrible start for him and his team, it's really been a strong run here lately. But for as much good as you can feel about it, when we talked to him afterwards out on pit road, and I asked him about how he feels or how he walks away from that night, and he said losing sucks. And this is a team that has to win to make the playoffs. This is an organization in RFK Racing that has 3 cars that right now only has 1 car in a provisional playoff spot. RFK hasn't had a car win yet this year, so there's not any, none of RFK's cars are essentially locked in. Chris Buescher's 15th in the playoff standings. Ryan Preece is the first driver outside a playoff spot, and then Brad Keselowski has to win to get in. It's as simple as that. So 8 races left in the regular season. A lot of things can change. A lot of things can really, turn upside down with these standings. So we'll see if Chris Buescher, who has had 4 straight top 10s, continues that run. We know how good he is on road courses. You've got Chicago and Sonoma the next 2 weeks. What can Ryan Preece do to move up? He qualified 2nd at Mexico in the last road course race, the most recent one, and won the first stage and got some points, and that was key there in taking advantage of his starting spot. Brad has not been as strong on the road courses, especially in the next gen era, so it may be a little bit of a tougher road for him the next couple weeks. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with Brad and also with just the RFK or racing organization as a whole.
Any last quips? Go ahead, Steve.
I'm sorry. The Chase certainly owes Alex Bowman for that win, blocking for him and not allowing Keselowski to get a run at him there on the last lap was huge. I mean, it's quite possible if Bowman were also racing for the win there, that we could have had another 3-way photo finish at the end of that race. But, Chase is the type of guy that I think he will repay Alex here in the next 8 races and see if he can't figure out a way to help him get a win and lock himself in.
Yeah. Probably as we exit this episode, we'll probably give the quip from Chase Elliott, giving credit to Alex Bowman and hoping really hard that he gets a win so that all 4 cars or machines from Hendrick Motorsports get in. Tell you what, we're going to talk about, we left that part, we're going to be talking about the Chicago Street races coming up next as you are watching and listening to the Cup Grow.
Our family stories are your family stories, except with more confetti.
Relive racing history with a walk along Glory Road or try your hand at our fan favorite racing simulator or pit crew challenge. Feel the passion and thrill of racing with stories and artifacts from the legends who shaped the sport in the Hall of Honor and Heritage Speedway.
Visit the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte for the ultimate outing. NASCAR Hall of Fame, this is our sport. This is our house.
Well, we're back from our break and taking a look at the Chicago Street Race. Dustin, you're going to be there, and it was really quite a race last year. There's been a lot of rain the last couple of years. We're hoping for a rain-free race. What is your take as we start off?
Yeah, it'd be a fascinating race. It'll be interesting to see if we can have a race at Chicago without rain. I think the forecast is looking good, at least early in the week, that there may not be rain. That now being saying that, who knows? We'll see what happens this weekend. But it would be nice for that event to be able to go through without having rain impact it for the fans' sake. It's not always fun to stand out in the rain or sit out in the rain or watch the race. Certainly on these street courses, road courses, it can be exciting, and it has provided some interesting moments. But I would say, look, when the conditions are good, I think back to last year's Xfinity race, actually, when you had Shane Van Gisbergen and Kyle Larson in that first stage, just this incredible battle for the lead back and forth. And that was just fabulous racing. We didn't get to see as much of that in the Cup race the next day in the wet conditions. Shane Van Gisbergen got clipped by another car and got wrecked, and Kyle Larson didn't have a good day. So unfortunately didn't get to see that kind of duel, but maybe get to see something like that or a couple of others. I'll tell you, an interesting guy I keep an eye on is Ty Gibbs. He has run well at that track, and I think what's interesting for him is that this past weekend at Atlanta, he had Chris Gabehart talking to him on the radio as opposed to crew chief Tyler Allen. Now, Allen remains the crew chief for the 54 team, but Gabehart, who is the competition director at Joe Gibbs Racing, and obviously better known for being the crew chief for Denny Hamlin for the last several years, before moving up to the ranks at Joe Gibbs Racing, was a unique role, a race strategist. And I talked with Chris after the race, and that's something that they're going to look to probably continue to do, because the effort is trying to get all four Gibbs cars in the playoffs. With Chase Briscoe winning at Pocono recently, they've got 3 of their 4 cars set with Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and now Briscoe. And now it's a matter of trying to get Ty Gibbs, who had a rough start to the season. They've had some close calls, but at Mexico, they were in the lead, but they had pitted. They had not pitted. Van Gisbergen had pitted about 3 laps earlier. The caution came out, ruined the race for Gibbs. And then at Michigan, you also had, where Ty finished third, had to save a bunch of fuel, and was really frustrated with how much fuel he had to save, because he felt like he could go after his teammate Denny Hamlin, who won that race. So it's kind of been a rough few weeks for them in some sense. So Chris Gabehart comes in and see if he can't, help that group, come together and, get that 54 car in the playoffs.
Steve.
Yeah, I think Ty Gibbs is a good possibility this weekend at Chicago. He's been running well. We know he has quality equipment, and it's just a matter of time before he gets into the winner's circle, whether it'll be here this year or, his winless streak continues for another year. I don't know. Another name I think that bears consideration, possibly, is Alex Bowman. He runs good on the road courses. May very well be the opportunity for him to get in the playoffs at Chicago. I guess my only hesitation there is that he got beat up so bad in that wreck at Pocono. I don't know whether or not he's going to, if he's fully healed and up to the rigors of a road course, he could be a factor on Sunday too.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I concur. Both those names are spot on in my early view. Also, another name that is up as I look through some of our early prediction models and the typical road course racers. I like AJ Allmendinger to make a showing here on the Chicago Street Course. He had glimpses of some great efforts on this course last year in the wet, but we all know from AJ's road race background, where he really excels is being able to control the car under heavy braking in and out of those corners. So I'm looking for Dinger, and I'm a little bit biased, guys. I will tell you, I grew up in Northern California, Campbell, Los Gatos, in the South Bay area, where AJ Allmendinger is from. So I've been watching AJ his entire career. I think the Chicago Street Course, if it's dry, is tailor made for a Dinger to be a factor in that race.
Yeah, what is interesting though, as we kind of close out on this, Ty Gibbs has had two top 10 performances. So has McDowell has also been there, and I think it's Reddick is the third driver. No one else has two top 10s in the first two races. Data's still coming out on everything, but you get a guy like Allmendinger, you can't ever count him out on a street race, but he's only had one top 20 in the two races. But hey, he's due. How in the world can you keep Allmendinger, or how can you keep McDowell out? I mean, it's kind of hard to do that.
Toyota has 3 NASCAR Cup teams, 2311 owned by these two, but this guy actually races for his team. And they both share the track with a team owned by this guy. 3 teams, 4 legends, all going after one cup. Now you're up to speed. You in?
I think Chicago is probably the biggest, risk versus reward racetrack we go to, because being aggressive really does pay off there. Whether it's getting as close as you can to the apexes, which are all walls, using up all the exit room. But on the flip side of it, right, the risk of it is massive, because you're not going to run off, get stuck in gravel, or hit a curb. You're going to hit a wall or a tire barrier. So it's definitely about managing all that stuff. There's a time and a place to put it all on the line. But on the flip side of it, you have to finish the race, the toe links and suspension, all that stuff intact. So I'd say that's the main goal, and definitely balancing aggression is big.
Any last comments on the Chicago Street Race?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think Shane Van Gisbergen is looking at this as an opportunity to fully lock himself into the playoffs, because if we get 5 more winners, he's going to be the first driver out, even though he has a win. His points total on the season is nowhere near good enough to keep him in the running. So if he could, pull off another upset in Chicago, that'll guarantee him that he's going to be in the playoffs regardless of who wins in the next 8 weeks.
Well, Steve makes a really good point about that. But one other thing I'd do to expand upon that is that, yes, another win would get him, would secure his playoff spot, but another win gets him 5 more playoff points. And, he's not going to finish in the top 10 in points, so he's not going to get any playoff points. So he's got to earn it with winning races and with winning stages. And why does that matter? Because the more playoff points he can build, does that give him enough of a cushion to get through the first round? And then what's in the second round? The Charlotte Roval. And if he could win the Charlotte Roval, now suddenly Shane Van Gisbergen, who's been 30th plus, outside the top 30 in points most of the season, could be in the final 8 if he gets through that first round. And let's say he wins a couple more of these road course races. Let's say he goes back to back at Chicago and Sonoma. That's 10 more playoff points. Is that enough to help him, give him that cushion to move on to the second round? And then if he can win at the Roval, that puts him into the third round. So, there's a lot at stake for that number 88 team for sure.
That's a great observation, Dustin.
Yep. Let's go ahead and end it here. But first off, Bob Francis, where can we read you and watch everything you got going on your website?
GoFullThrottle.net. We also have the app you can download. What we try to do is really provide those NASCAR fantasy players with our AI predictions. This week, we're up to 96% in our performance against all players in the TMD NASCAR League. So the model's learning every week, continues to improve. We're excited about that.
Dustin Long, where can we read you? I know where to go, but how about everybody else?
NBCsports.com.
And go under the NASCAR page, right?
Yes.
Specifically, I check out all you guys. I actually read a lot of data. I got to keep up with you guys. But Bob and Dustin, we now have Steve. Go ahead.
TheLascoPress.com.